Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Will you please rise if possible and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Andrew Benson. Here. Katrina Binkowitz. Here. Doug Dave.
Here.
Joseph Wetmore.
Here.
Ed Levine.
Here. Okay, in your packet are item 4 is the public hearing. Proposed consolidated water district improvement project to develop the town barn road water main connections. And someone can entertain a motion to.
I'll move it.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Anyone from the public have any questions or comments or concerns about this? So what's proposed tonight is if you envision Armstrong Road and you're going towards Crossroads on Pruville, that consolidated water district number 5 will be basically from Armstrong going down Pruville, crossing over Pruville, and eventually connecting down on actually the Trickhammer area, connect that loop. And that will be consolidated water district number 5. That service will be paid by the residents there. What's unique about this situation is that this is an improvement. This is something that we have to ask permission and authorization from the consolidated water district to take their money for this. There is no quote-unquote immediate benefit, but there also is immediate benefit because one of the highest pressure areas we have is right at Crossroads. And if that breaks, there's no way for people to get water down beneath past them. So what we do is we can reroute it by going through the town barn road. At a meeting today when I had at Bolton Point, I asked Steve Riddle, and we're also working with Cricket on this, as more and more water lines are coming into play, how we can connect more of these spurs so that you have more benefit districts in case something breaks. We can that way we have continuity. One of our biggest concerns right now will be Lincoln Meadows because they only have one source of water, and that goes underneath that road. So this is the purpose of the public hearing tonight, and hopefully once we get through seeker, we'll have a negative deck, and we'll move forward with the authorization for that.
You only get the 1 minute. You've got enough time.
If no one else has any comments, questions, or concerns, I entertain a motion to close the public hearing. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Now, Guy, we need to go through the seeker process now?
Yes, the seeker is not really redundant because this is work that is in addition to District 5. It's to take what would be the end pipe terminus that would be at District 5 and to go towards the town highway barn to create a redundant loop with consolidated water district mains, as well as to provide firefighting water supplies, as well as then to connect to the Four Corners area, which would create multiple loops and water redundancy, prevent stagnant water, etc. So the seeker is actually looking at those two little extensions, those two little interconnections. It was considered a unlisted action, so the 11 questions that were presented based on Part 1 and in Part 2 are, will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulation? The answer that is proposed at least is no, or only a small impact will occur. Will the action result in a change in use or intensity of land? Again, no. Will the proposed action impair the quality of an existing community? And no or small impact. Will the action have an effect on a CEA, critical environmental area? No. Will it create an adverse change in existing lines of traffic or infrastructure for transit, biking, or walkways? Again, no, they're underground water lines. Will the action cause an increase in use of energy or fail to incorporate energy conservation opportunities? Again, no, there might be one electrical valve, but the use is de minimis. Will it impact public or private water supplies or treatment utilities? No and no. It's just connecting a main, it's not adding new users. Will the action impair the character or quality of historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? No or a small impact. I will say that that area is in the designated area by SHPO, but 2 neighboring properties have been fully surveyed, and the only land disturbed here is already in a state highway right-of-way. Whatever's there is long gone by now. So the answer was no or a small impact. Will it result in an adverse change to resources such as wetlands, water bodies, groundwater? And the answer was no, nothing's mapped in the area, and we're pretty far from the wetlands that are to the north. Will the proposed action result in an increase for potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? The impact would be small. There would be the normal drainage control during construction. And will it create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? The answer proposed there is also no. Eliminating stagnant water in water lines is probably beneficial to human health. So based on those proposed answers and whatever questions or reviews you have, my recommendation, or the recommendation is from the Water and Sewer Advisory Board, that there be a negative declaration of environmental impact from these 2 main connections.
Any questions for Guy?
I just had one change I wanted to do on part 1. On question 5, I would check off industrial because the town barn area is zoned industrial. It's kind of industrially used, and so I think it would be appropriate to check industrial as one of the uses in the area.
Okay, that makes sense.
Any other comments, questions, or concerns for our hearing? In that case, I'd like to take entertain a motion to making secret negative declaration against Sauter Water District 202-B Public Interest Resolution in order approving Town Warren Road Improvement Project connecting mains and Town Highway, Barn, and Four Corners area. I'd like to make a motion.
I'll move it. I'll second.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Munson?
Andrew Benson?
Yes.
Trina Binkowitz?
Yes.
Doug Tate?
Yes.
Joseph Wetmore?
Yes.
Edward Levine?
Yes. Okay. Moving on to item 6 in your packet, which is the privilege of the floor. This is limited to 20 minutes with a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker. We have a list of the rules of privilege of the floor that are in the back. They're also mentioned in your packet. And I have one person who has signed up. If other people want to also exercise privilege of the floor, we can do that after the first person has used up to their 3 minutes. So the first person is Dean Shea. Hi, Dean.
Hi there. So I emailed my comments to the board and forwarded a copy to Debbie as well.
Oh, thank you.
These are the same comments that I had on Monday night at the planning board meeting. At the last planning board meeting, several people spoke about my lack of an apology to Mr. Van Every. They also accused me of introducing a culture that they don't want continued by my being reappointed to the board. At the last meeting, I made that apology to Mr. Van Every with regret for making a reasonable response in an unreasonable tone. I apologized and clearly explained the motivation for my response. My apology was sincere. As I stated in writing to the board, many in the neighborhood group from Emmons Road were disrespectful to the board in ignoring instructions, and several in the tone of their delivered remarks. No apology has been issued to the board for this appalling behavior. Here are some additional examples. After a hearing for the Utsmeetsa project, a member of the Emmons Road neighborhood group told a member of the board in this room that the applicant was a liar. In a letter to the board, a member of the public declared that any use of the Utsmeetsa property other than farming was a sin. At a hearing for Atzmitza, a board member was called out by a member of the audience for reacting to a statement from a public speaker. The motive for his reaction was ascribed to him by that audience member. At the last planning board meeting, some members of the public ascribed criminal motives to me. No apology has been issued to the board or myself for these appalling behaviors. I ask the board to strongly condemn this culture that I did not bring to this room. A culture that engages in name-calling and the toxic and corrosive practice of ascribing motives to others. My motive for delaying my apology was my disgust at the behavior that I've described here and the sincere feeling that an apology is due to this board. But given that, how does the board move forward in a positive way? Well, here are some suggestions. Effectively enforcing the privilege of the floor guidelines. The practical application should be worked out by the board and implemented. Number 2, alleviating frustration on the part of the public who don't feel listened to. This can't be done by printing a complaint on a political postcard. I discussed this with Joe, and he suggested a scripted comment by the board to assure the public that they are listened to. I wrote a short comment that could be read to the public before or after the privilege of the floor or public hearings, and I also attached that to my email. The public have expressed frustration by their interaction with the planning board, and I think it's related to a lack of understanding of how the board works, what its limitations are, and how it interacts with the public. I've written a short list of what to expect at a planning or public board meeting. I hope the board will consider making use of these ideas to move forward in a positive way. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to exercise the right to privilege of the floor?
Hello, I'm Diane Beckwith. I wanted to express my gratitude to this board for their foresight and support in getting the advisory committee for Power Plant Future on this agenda tonight. I appreciate your recognition of the importance of community input and shared information, and I think this advisory committee can be very helpful in making sure the community is well informed and possibly routing support for any developments that are in the best interest of our town. And I also want to say to those on the board who are stepping down, thank you for your service. And to those who are re-elected, congratulations. Thank you for your continued service, and I look forward to working with you in coming years.
Thank you. May I impose this for a moment to, I may just take, I'll put your name down here on the privilege of the floor to keep these records. May I have your address, please?
116 Ludlow Road.
Thank you. Anyone else want to exercise privilege of the floor? Okay. Well, in that case, comes the fun time. Leave it up. Leave it up to you.
I'm going to do the privilege of the board.
So there's a new section here.
New section. First, I'll explain the cookies. I went to my very first cookie exchange, believe it or not, yesterday. And because of, I'm such a good person, but also because my scale in the bathroom does not want me to eat these, I want to share this with everybody tonight, both the board and the public. And the other thing I want to do is I want to honor Katrina Binkowitz because it is her last board meeting. And she has been on the board 11 years, which is absolutely amazing. The best part about Katrina being on the board is that we became friends. And I told her that. I said, that's the best part about me being a board member. I got to know you and love you. There was thousands of things you could say good about Katrina. And the only thing I could think of, besides how wonderful she is to the employees here, how she plants everything in front of the town hall every year, all these things that I think, why don't I do that? And I think, ooh, I never had the time. Ooh, I didn't study horticulture. And of course, to me, the bestest thing she has done is Saw Point. So tonight we are going to crown Katrina Queen of Salt.
You can wear that.
I wish it was real gold.
Take a picture.
You both wore red because of this, right?
So we're going to take about 10 minutes to feast and, share our compliments to Katrina also. So we'll come back about 7 o'clock on that, okay?
Thank you very much.
Well,
I have to say, I was queen of something once. In grad school, I was queen of mulch. That was my project. And I never thought I would be queen of something again, so I'm done.
You went from mulch to soil.
There you go.
Moved on.
So please, come up and have cookie.
yeah, feast.
That's gonna stick,
Taste it.
I'd like to take advantage of our sugar buzz right now and move forward quickly. Item 7 in our packet is Lansing Community Library report. Andrea, that's in your wheelhouse. You want to add anything to the report? Okay. Item 8 is Lansing Youth Service on our agenda. Item 9.
Say one
go ahead.
thing. They
Yeah.
are looking, Lansing Youth Services, we're always looking for more people to be on our board. And it's an easy board. We all get along. And we're talking about kids. So if you like kids, and you want to make sure they have stuff to do after school, especially kids who don't always have a chance to do, because of their situations, to do that. Please consider joining, because we're always looking for members.
Okay. The next item is the Tompkins County Legislator Mike Sigler with a brief report.
Got all the sugar on this top of it.
Faster, that's all.
And he's right next to the sugars,
That's
he's in
right.
charge.
That's quite the cookie exchange you Well, thank you for having me again. Lots going on in the county as always. Again, I want to thank Marcia Lynch. She, I don't know what I'm going to do. She is retired, as some of you know. I rely on her reports a lot. She is also, she lives in Lansing, obviously. I'm glad she is staying around for a while, so that's great. If you want to read a nice little interview with her, you can pick up the Lansing Ledger. And there's a nice little interview with Marcia in there. She has been excellent in this position, and she will be hard to fill. We have a bunch of department heads actually leaving probation. I'll tell you a little bit about that in a second. Emergency service at the airport. Lee Shirtliff is leaving, and Julia over at Workforce is also retiring. Lee's going to be hanging out until the spring, kind of like just to kind of help out a little bit, and then he'll be fully retired. Yeah, those are the major retirements. So anyway, the governor may be in town tomorrow. This is what I'm being told. The airport is done, except for the customs facility. That's still getting work done, but the jetways and all that are in place. And that's very exciting. The governor's going to fly in supposedly to cut the ribbon. We're still thinking tomorrow. I have no time. I don't know when. So, I'm staying in town just to see if that happens. But hopefully it will happen tomorrow. Last night's meeting, Daniel Cornell, he was appointed as the Tompkins County Director of Probation and Community Justice. Very emotional, him taking over that position. He's already worked at probation. He's been the Deputy Director of Probation since 2018. And he began his career as a probation officer with Delaware County in 1995 and then came to Tompkins County in 1999. So it's been there 20 years. He's been under outgoing director Pat Michelle, and she's done just an excellent job there as well. She's retired, he's taking over, and he's kind of been mentored by her, so that's excellent. And we have a good line of succession there. And his appointment takes effect January 31st. Following 6 months of intensive task force study and a month of thoughtful review by legislators, we did approve merging the county departments of public health and mental health in one department. We're identifying the responsibilities of departmental leadership. They'll be provided a merged model, which we're working on, and the full merger of the departments will take effect in July of 2021. So we have some time. We have 18 months before the merger will go into effect. The vote was 11-3. Dan Klein, Leslie McBean Claiborne, and Henry Gannison voted no on this. It will replace the shared leadership model that has been in effect for the past 4 years. Part of the discussion when we came to this vote, I was called by Dick Booth, and I respect Dick a lot. He's well versed in mental health. He's a former county legislator as well. He made a very valid point, and it's something I brought up too, is that public health deals with really big issues. You know, your water safety, your restaurants, if somebody gets measles on an airplane and gets exposed, the health department calls your family and says, hey, you might have a problem here, look out. Whereas mental health is very specific and very one-on-one, individualized kind of thing. So they're very different. And I put that out in front of Krupa, who runs the department, and in front of Jason Molina. And they did bring up some valid points. The public health department actually does have some individualized programs like WIC and things like that. And that there is a lot of crossover. If somebody is in a program at the public health department, they may also need some mental health services. And there is overlap between them and between their families. And I think that there will be some benefit there. And that's why I voted for it. If you want to see the report, it's online, tompkinscounty.ny.gov/health/task force report, and you can get all the information there. We also approved, and this was debated too, and it didn't pass by a lot, 9-5. We are going to allow, if somebody is going to be a department head, they've always had to live within the county. We are going to put something in place where we'll be able to review that. If somebody doesn't live out of county, we can still make them a department head. It's not automatic, but we have people who, succession plans, who are deputies to the director, and then they want to be able to apply for the director job, but they can't because they live out of county. And it seems like if you live in Homer, are we really going to ask you to uproot your children out of school, just move to the county to take this job, and we lose all that, experience? That didn't seem right to us. Or say you live here, but your parents live in Spencer, and your parents are senior, and you need to go take care of them. Again, it doesn't seem right that you can't perform a job that you really have worked your whole life to get to, but you have a reason to live out of county. So we've just made it an issue where we can waive that requirement. But again, I understand the concerns about this. These directors get paid a lot of money. It's $100,000, right? We don't want that money leaving the county. It's your tax dollars. So I understand where people come from, and people should want to live in the county that they serve. But I think that sometimes there are overriding reasons, and I think we don't want to lose some good talent because of those reasons. So that's the waiver, and we're going to review it in 2 years and see how it's working. So that was a concession that we made. Earlier this month, we did call on New York State to make needed changes to implement the state's sweeping new criminal justice reform measures. These go into effect January 1st. This was something we actually, as a legislature, voted in support of. We do feel that there's needs to be some bail reform. I was actually very surprised at the list that came out from the state of New York. There are charges in there that you're kind of like, I don't really know if that person should be released just without bail. So we did talk to some judges. If there isn't bail set, pretty much everybody comes back to get tried. But there was a lot of concern about this, and as well there should be. I mean, the list is pretty daunting. If you look at the list of things that now, there will be no bail set for them. So we would just like a few changes. We've listed the changes. It in part indicates that Tompkins County, we think that judges should have some discretion in this. It shouldn't just be a blanket. The judge is sitting right there. They have a better sense of what's going on in the situation than somebody in Albany who's never even looked at the case, or you can't really cookie cut everything. So we would like the judges to have more discretion. We think it's an essential tool in allowing our justice system to function, was the direct quote. There were 10 improvements in there, and certainly, repealing discovery mandates for most vehicle and traffic law infractions was one of them. Also, in a series of resolutions, these were all approved without dissent. We're going to restructure the county's land protection funds. We're just going to combine, we had a bunch of different things, different pots of money in protecting land. We're going to put those all under one umbrella. It was just a bunch of resolutions to basically do that. We had to shift the money around. We're going to be doing all the same things. We're not cutting any programs. We're just literally bringing it under one umbrella so that we kind of know what we're doing a little bit better instead of having all these different working hands. We're going to have everything under one roof. Also, so still under that preservation acquisition projects, just as an example, the Finger Lakes Land Trust, there's $25,000 for the Summerland Farm, the $7,500 for Shindig and Hollow, and the Brown Easement projects. They're both in Caroline. And the big one, right here in the town of Lansing, is we're putting $100,000 toward the preservation of the Cayuga Cliffs Land and Water Protection Projects. That's an exciting project. There's going to be a trail through there. You're going to have a pretty good, it's lakefront, but it's cliffs. But it's an exciting project for the town of Lansing. It certainly is something that we liked that the Finger Lakes Land Trust was involved in, and they definitely spearheaded that, and we're just really a funding source, and that is kind of what the county does, put money aside to do. So that is my short report.
Okay, Mike. Any comments, questions, or concerns you want to share with me?
Yeah, so we're expanding the airport, presumably more people will be using it. We've got the DOT transportation facility going in nearby, and now there's talk of the bus station, the bus terminal moving up there. And I was wondering if you guys were going to do a traffic study to see how this, large impact on traffic is going to affect that area, and whether things have to be changed in order to accommodate all that new traffic.
Right. So while the county is a member of TCAP, we are just a member. Sorry about that. But yes, we'll be asking for that, I think, as a county to do that, because I already got emails from certain people who are concerned about that, and as well they should be. So we'll be looking at traffic studies. We'll be looking. I got to tell you, the project is about $57 million. I don't see it. I don't mean to be pessimistic. It's just so much money. The governor's budget right now is $6 billion in the hole. They would need a lot of state aid to get $57 billion or $57 million to build this facility. So I'm not overly optimistic that that's even going to happen, but maybe. I guess we'll see. There's a lot of things TCAP wants to do. TCAP wants to go all electric buses. Buses are expensive, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of support. Support might be the wrong word. There just doesn't seem to be a lot of money, to be honest for that. So we'll see. But yeah, that was a big amount of money. The Vanguard site was about $25 million, and that's basically right up the road. That's, if you're going, you go across the new bridge, you're going out 13. NYSEG would be up here on your right. But before you even get there, there's tree forms. Right across the road from there is the Vanguard site. I didn't think that site was actually big enough, but I guess it is. But yeah, people have very valid concerns. In fact, where they're suggesting TCAP go is where I thought they were actually initially going to put the DOT site, which is it's a better site. It wasn't big enough for DOT, I think. But, so yeah, that's a long road ahead. They will be doing many a study. And, we will see. They really are not in a great location now. They're on the other side of the railroad tracks. It was never really the best site. But we put everything down there, it seems. I don't.
And they don't have enough room.
Yeah, I mean, they've outgrown that area. But again, we're a partner. We're just a third partner. The city is a third, and Cornell's a third.
You're one of the key partners because you own some of that property.
Yes, we are. Well, Cornell owns most of the property that they're suggesting. So,
Where
I-
is that?
It's really right at the end of the airport. So if you go to the end of the runway, it's kind of like.
CJ, you want to show again where that map is? We went over this a number of times. You want to be able to share with Dan where that map is?
A proposed TCAD site.
Right, right. It's already taxed. Cornell's not even paying tax on now, it's an exempt area, so if the concerns about losing tax base, that's not the argument.
It's wholly exempt.
Okay. Any other comments, questions, or concerns for Mike? All good?
Thank you.
No problem. And Katrina, I expect to see you at the supermarket in your crown and sash. But again, thank you very much. Thanks for last. You don't get 2 things.
Maybe I'll show up at your door on Halloween.
That would be fun. Sandy 6 coming out on Fridays. All right, well, thank you folks very much, and happy holidays.
That's it, yeah. Item 10 in our packet is Park and Rec Department from Pat. Do you have any comments?
I do. Just a couple updates. Digital sign is at your sign. Hopefully that will be installed before Christmas. Keeping my fingers crossed on that one. Obviously, we have a lot of upcoming programs, recreation-wise, park-wise. The lottery is coming up this year, which will keep our office busy for the next couple of months. And we'll begin Jason camping and pavilion renovations as well. Also want to note the winter solstice celebration at the park on the 21st. Please join in if you would like to. They're going to do some caroling as well beforehand. Other than that, brief. That's it.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns for Pat?
Will there be a bonfire as well for solstice?
I am not aware of that yet, but I may be soon. See what the weather does.
So hopefully by 1 o'clock tomorrow we'll have some good news for you.
Yes, I keep in mind.
Because we're going to find out if the, was it $1.2 million grant? Is that what it is, CJ? For Myers Park renovation. We'll see if we get awarded that or not. We were in the finals. We seem to have, I'm going to quote you, have all the boxes checked. We were invited to Albany tomorrow, so I'm a little bit confused why the governor may be here tomorrow, which is fine. I don't care as long as he gets the grant. I don't care if he brings it to us. It's fine either way. But, well, once again, it's on a day-to-day basis when he'll show up. I understand there's a variety of different reasons why not. And you know, it is what it is.
And while it's a 3-hour drive for you, it's just a 45-minute flight.
Totally understand, and it's not a criticism.
Maybe you can fly him out there.
Yeah,
I can go pick them up. That'd be great.
I'm sure you have a
Oh, you
very...
fly out to Albany.
Yeah,
I-
yeah, I used to drive that a lot. Patrick, thank you for coming in.
Yes, basketball practice got canceled, so I thought I would come to the wonderful town board meetings that we have.
And you'll be in tomorrow, so we'll have some...
cookies, so.
Well, you know, exactly. Okay, thank
We
you.
appreciate your dedication.
You're not going to be here at the end of the meeting when I say nice things about your department, but you're
Well,
done.
I have nice things. I wasn't voicing it. But thank you to Katrina for the last several years. She's gotten a lot done at the park and Salt Point and the trails. So a big thank you from our department.
Yeah.
It's your department and you've done a fine job of leadership. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'm done.
On that note, Cricket unavailable tonight. He is busy discussing with Mother Nature how we're going to get home tonight, so I appreciate that. And then we have CJ. So much to talk about in such a little time.
We will try to keep it brief, so in the spirit of others. Good evening. So I'll just hit some of the highlights from the planning report, and of course, let me know if you have any questions on any of the items therein. The exciting news is that I did get ArcGIS to give me a quote, so we'll actually have software up and running after the new year. So we'll be able to do a range of maps as any of our boards might like. I did submit an application to Cornell Design Connect to consider creating for us town center design guidelines for obviously the area just north of here. In case that doesn't work out, I also asked county planning as part of their municipal planning effort, which I think you received the email about that recently, as one of our alternative projects for their direct services program. They're getting ready to offer municipalities up to 200 hours of assistance every year for the bargain basement price of $5,700. So I said, where do we sign? So yeah, I sent that to them as well. The Ag District number 1, as you know, which covers all the town of Lansing, is currently under review. It's an 8-year cycle. Monica Roth from Cornell Cooperative Extension has been helping with that. We had a joint meeting at the last planning board meeting with the Agriculture Committee as well, and I anticipate a meeting again with them, I think the second week of January. We're still sorting out those dates. We have finally coordinated with Mr. Gary Bush, the engineering consultant who provided a needs assessment for the highway building. And we're hopefully have a needs assessment fully fleshed out soon, and we'll hopefully be talking about some of the proposals that they came up with for new office space for them, as well as some additions possibly. And so that's in the works, but at least we got the project almost done. TCAT did install the new shelter here at Town Hall, as you may have noticed, so thank you for that action last month, providing that license agreement to them. They basically installed it right after I sent the email, so very fast. We are coordinating with county assessment as well as LCSD on applying for the electric generation facility cessation mitigation program, which is a relief program for municipalities impacted by the closure of power plants. So I figured I'd just mention that because it is on the agenda tonight to talk about that. That's certainly something that advisory committee could take part in, is just really gathering up that information that we need to do something like that on behalf of the town. And any eligible taxing jurisdiction can apply, so the library, school district, county, town, fire district. So we're going to all try to coordinate so that we don't all submit different things, and so there's a fairly streamlined process to apply to New York State Empire State Development for that funding. And last but certainly not least is the solar energy local law has kind of been sitting there for a bit while I continue to collect information. I did have a conversation recently with the director of planning for the town of Dryden, Ray Berger, and we've been tossing about the acreage limitation idea, and he asked me to kind of pass on the information to folks who are interested to go check out the projects on Stevenson Road. He's a little bit upset with the way the kind of visual clutter from the needed utility interconnection infrastructure ended up shaking out. So we're going to kind of, my plan is essentially to kind of watch where that's going, and because those facilities are still not connected, which is a whole other beef that people have about those projects. And now, of course, NYSEG is coming in and trying to connect the systems, and there seems to be some issues with the way those parcels actually had to be subdivided to meet with the incentives. So that would be my concern as part of putting limitations on the size of those projects. To that end, one of the ideas that I presented to the county as part of the municipal planning effort is a best practices report on utility scale solar. So I've asked the county to look into all the aspects of real property tax law, subsidies, host community agreements, the coordination with utilities, Article 10, agrivoltaic smart siting on farmlands, and the agricultural and conservation easements, and helping identify properties best suited for utility scale solar. So I'm hoping that they will want to help us out with that. And that's basically the highlights from me. Oh yeah, and we may have an exciting announcement tomorrow, so stay tuned around between noon and 1.
We
Will
have,
you email us?
Yes, we're going to send out a, well, assuming we get the grant, we'll send out a press release.
so any comments, questions, or concerns for CJ? I have a few.
Yeah,
I invited Jay Franklin, and he hasn't, first, this time of year is very difficult. But there's two things that Jay Franklin, I believe, can help us with. One of them was the residential exemptions we talked about. This is in February, because January gets a little dicey. In February, to come in here and, walk us through first the residential. You get an exemption if you're a homeowner. And here's all the criteria. It was in your package before, but we're going to refresh that and bring it to the forefront. And number two is the solar impact for the tax base. Because, to be quite frank with you, solar is nice and everything, but we have to also look at the residents. And we start peeling back and look at the reality here. There's almost so much capacity in these wires. And these solar factories that come in, most of them have pilots, and most of them really don't have a monetary benefit to us. And I'm going to paraphrase here that 3 types. You have the residential, which Joe has, and you have. And then you have the community, which is like the Wayne Straw type of situation. And then you have the solar arrays, what I call them solar factors, the megawatts that come in, the 100 megawatts, 500 acres, pow, there you are. Or the one in Dryden on Stevenson Road, where they had to subdivide every 2 acres, bang, 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 bang. Every 2 acres, you got a little solar array going on.
approximately 10, but yeah, 2 megawatts on 10 acres.
So having said that, because it's roughly it's a 1 to 5 ratio, 35 acres, you have 1 megawatt. I'm looking at the fact that this is a great situation for our taxpayers. Look, there's no impact to the schools, because you're not talking about kids here, you're not talking about residential. You're talking about, when this comes in, what's the best usage that we can have for our taxpayers, and also what's the best benefit that we can have. And then when you're concerned about farmland and everything, I don't think it's going to impact it, because I don't see these 100 megawatt solar factories coming in. I have no desire right now, the way it sits. Besides, even then, they qualify for the Article 10 to get over our hands anyways. I would more to seriously consider where the best bang for our taxpayers' buck is going forward, because we're just about through hemorrhaging all the money we can from the power plant and from the shops of Ithaca, and hopefully we'll start moving in another direction. So those are 2 things I think that Jake Franklin can be excellent with. The other thing is, and I'll plant this seed right now, is that we pretty well stabilized our expenses from the town with our machines and everything else. We pretty well stabilized our needs at this building and everything else, along with the new roof and the server and the boilers and the air conditioning and the computers and the generators. This is pretty well locked tight. Now we need to go up the road, and I'll invite all the board members in Brown. They'll accommodate you, and they'll even take you on a run if you want. It's a lot of fun, actually. To look at their facility is 51 years old. And at some point, the amount of money we have invested in there, the hundreds of thousands of dollars, amongst other things, we need to bring that up, in my opinion, up to speed. Once again, the planets are in alignment because the rates are so low. When I talk to the Municipal Solutions, we're looking at about 2.7% on this rate. And we're crunching numbers as fast as we can. So when I reach out to the guy and he says, should I go slow? I said, no, we're going to go as fast as we can on this, get as much information as possible. In fact, CJ now has a new assistant, me, since I retired, so I'm running back and forth across the halls now, because how can we keep moving these things forward? Because we need accurate information so we can present to the public and also to the board to see, okay, what are we going to get and how much it's going to cost us. And we have no debt outside of our water districts, our sewer district. So having said that, we'll aggressively look at this in the future, and also we'll have hopefully a resolution in the next few months to see if the water district is involved with so much, how much can they contribute to this? We have to do that by resolution. How much can they contribute to non-pipeline expenses. So those are what we'll have in the next few months. And the other thing was that, like I said, go up there and see their facility right now and see what we can do in the next 50 years for this, because we are growing. Those are the main concerns I have as far as the debt service goes. Also the fact of what our needs are. We're not going to look at the sprinkler systems right now because we can't piecemeal this together, put a sprinkler system in now, and then all of a sudden have an addition and go with something else. So we pulled back a little bit from that. I think Gary Bush has given us most of the information that we have for that contract, and now it's time for CJ to tap into the many pots of money along other things, and maybe we put this out to bid as what the real need assessment will be, and architects and everything else. Well, those are conversations that we'll have in the near future. I just want to prime the pump for everybody here, amongst other things. We have other stuff we want to discuss in executive session, but right now that's...
Yeah, and to follow up on that just briefly, we have reached out to Tompkins County Business Energy Advisors who have programs specific to Lansing because of the natural gas moratorium, and we're planning to work with the firm CJ Brown out of Buffalo. They have done in the past the master plan for the throughway, the energy plan for the throughway system and all of those maintenance buildings. So I think that they'll be a wonderful contributor to thinking about how to bring that facility essentially up to modern standards. So,
Good.
and it's free to the town.
Thank you for all your hard work. It's been great watching you step in and get things done and make lots of lists. It's okay to shut the door periodically. It's coming back to give you another.
We're working that system out. It's like, this is, Sue says no, she's locked up the stock.
Sue sticks out a leg.
Sue does that now. Okay. So I go call.
Thanks for your service, Katrina.
Thank you. Item 13 on the packet, there's no report for engineering and there's no report for county, so we'll move on to item 15, which is motion authorizing town supervisor to sign 2020 agreement with Food Net Meals on Wheels.
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So, now we're in uncharted waters. Our consent agenda.
I will move the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
That's it?
It might not be bad to read to the public what's on it.
Just the
headline.
Just the head, just the title.
Why don't we go right down through? Joe, why don't you start with A and we'll go right down the line and go back, okay?
Resolution creating and appointing members to the Town of Lansing Advisory Committee on Power Plant Future.
resolution creating the Town of Lansing Parks and Recreation Trail Advisory Committee.
Resolution appointing receiver of taxes and deputy receiver of taxes for 2020 and 2021.
Resolution hiring Patricia Polk, full-time information aide.
Resolution adopting the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation Climate Smart, not SMART, oh, Smart Communities Pledge.
Sorry, typo.
Resolution reappointing Melanie Malone as a Town of Lansing Zoning Board of Appeals member for 5-year term. Should say reappointing because she's moving from an alternate to a member of the board.
She's been on the board.
Okay. Well,
To
okay.
me, that's a reappointment.
Okay.
Resolution approving the Town of Lansing Conservation Advisory Council 2019 annual report.
Resolution approving audit and budget modifications of the supervisory board. Any further?
No, don't ask questions. This is a consent agenda.
I take directions so well. You tell me what. Go ahead, Mr. Munson.
Well, I was just going to say, you know, that if you look right below that, it's resolved that the consent agenda is resolutions 19-159 and 19-166. And then I will just do the roll call.
Sure.
Okay.
Andrew Benson?
Yes.
Katrina Binkowitz?
Yes.
Doug Dave?
Yes.
Joseph Wetmore?
Yes.
Edward Green?
Yes.
That was really fun. That was the only time I've ever had a chance to do that.
Maybe you should stay.
Okay, great. Item 17, resolution approving authorizing bid documents for town hall and community building disposal services.
Second it.
Any further discussion?
Andrew Benson,
Yes.
Katrina Finkelwich.
Yes.
Doug Dave,
Yes.
Joseph Wetmore,
Yes.
Edward Levine.
Yes. We're up to item 18, board member reports. Shall we all lead off briefly?
Briefly. Tompkins County Council of Governments meeting. They did a presentation on the inner city bus station. This is not TPAT, this is Greyhound and those kind of buses. The question is really pondering two things: who's going to run it on the long term and where it's going to be located. Right now it's downtown. The problem with it is online ticket sales make it hard to operate a profitable bus station now. And so the city's kind of stuck with it for the moment. The city's looking for someone else to take it over. And then also looking at a place that's going to work better than Green Street right now, because it's really clogging up Green Street traffic, especially during high traffic times, like when the students are coming and going for breaks. The other thing that was added, the county did a presentation on nodal development. The county's mapped out established nodes and emerging nodes, and in Lansing, the town center is considered an emerging node. The county's goal is to have 2/3 of the development happening in the city and villages. The concentration in development will help build communities, will make housing more affordable, protects the rural character and scenic resources of the community, and is a more sustainable model. The kinds of regulations inside the nodes that the county is recommending is small lots, mixed uses, walkable character, and specific design standards. The further recommendations from the county on this is they'd really like to see strict edges around the nodes defined by the communities. They want to limit water and sewer to within these nodes, and they want to have a strong support for biking and walking connections between these nodes and other developments in the area. I was not able to attend the IO meeting, and you attended it. The ITCTC, the Transportation Council, approved their new officers. Tim Loeb's going to be chair of the Planning Committee, and Ray Berger is going to be vice chair. We approved the 2040 long-range plan. They talked about the airport opening ceremony that's going to be happening very soon. They reported that the DOT facility finally had a bid accepted by the state controllers. It's a lot more than they expected it to be, but it's going to be moving forward. And there's still talk about the Salmon Creek Bridge. We talk about this virtually every meeting to make sure that we don't have the Ludloville Bridge and the Salmon Creek Bridge out at the same time. And I also brought up the question of emergency services because everybody's really concerned about that. The planning board meeting, I did not make the one on Monday because I can't make third Monday meetings, but the previous one on November 25th, members of the public came and talked about Dean and his reappointment. And then we went into the joint meeting with the Agricultural Committee, and Monica Roth gave a really nice presentation on the agricultural district, and the committees went over lot by lot, essentially, the proposed changes and talked about it. And we're going to get together, I think the last date I saw was January 6th, as another joint meeting.
Sue's working on confirming that.
Yeah, I understand, it's a lot of coordinating. In talking with the planning board, they're really concerned about fire protection in North Lansing, and I would like to see that as a regular thing that we discuss, because I think that's an ongoing concern. With the bridges out, they're having trouble getting their larger equipment to areas like where I live. And the planning board brought this up as a concern as well, because some of them live up there as well. And they're also very concerned about the bridge construction. And I think we need to be finding a way of regularly keeping the public informed on the progress of both of these bridges, because I know I get a lot of people asking me questions about when's construction going to start, what are the alternate routes. It's really going to change traffic down a lot for people who live up in that area. November 21st, I went to a stream buffer workshop that was put on that was really interesting. It was talking about the importance of stream buffers and how if you have a 100-foot buffer between on the stream in agricultural areas or other areas. A 100-foot buffer will remove 80% of the runoff contaminant. That it's a highly effective way of keeping the stream water clean, and as we keep the stream water clean, we keep the lake cleaner. And it's a powerful tool that the community has to keep our water quality both in the streams and lake high. And replacing stream buffers is really expensive. They said the average estimate for replacing a stream buffer is $4,000 per acre. It's a lot easier to keep the ones we have than to replace them after somebody decides to take them out. And so I really think we need to be looking at this valuable resource we have of keeping our water clean and looking for ways to protect it. I also attended a seminar at Bike Walks Tompkins, in which they were looking for bicycle corridors potentially for this area, and trying to figure out where the different developments are, where the different people are living, and what would make sense to use as bike corridors through the area to make bicycles a more usable transportation on a regular basis. And so they did a charrette with a bunch of the committee members to kind of work out some ideas of where these were. And I think I'll leave it there.
Good, thank you.
I'm on the Conservation Advisory Council, and I was recommended to be our representative, Lansing's representative to the Douglas County Environmental Management Council. So I got a letter in the mail saying I was appointed, which was very nice, but I have to go down within 30 days to the county and swear to the county clerk. I don't hold everything.
Swear at? Not swear at. Swear to.
Ooh, I better do it soon. I will do that. I will do that. And I am kind of excited about this new appointment. Everything else is in the report. The library did have a very successful fundraiser, costumes and cocktails. And then they had a successful book sale. And then they had a successful holiday craft sale. And the librarian told me the reason costumes and cocktails was so successful is different individuals and businesses in our town gave so much. And so the cost was so little. And she said that was fabulous. She couldn't believe it. So the support for the library is really, really phenomenal. And that's all I wanted to say. I'll probably get a little more involved. I have a little more time.
I don't have one negative thought about it.
What?
I don't have one negative thought about it.
Okay.
That's it? Doug?
Okay.
What about me? Not right now. Pending, right?
Planning board meeting Monday night. Two different projects came before the board. One was a 9 or 10 lot, no, 18 lot?
10.
10, it is 10. Okay, so I was right. 10 lot subdivision, major subdivision off of Trip Hammer Road. About 500,000 feet from Asbury Road, moving north on the east side of the road. And we also had a brief review with the owners or possible owners of the old IGA store. So they were looking at some different options to try to revamp that. So that's all.
Excellent.
I just wanted to say a few words. I never was interested in politics at all. I never thought I would run for anything in my life. And somehow I found my hand in the air at a Democratic meeting one time when there were incumbents and nobody was going to run against them. That's how it all started. Since that time, I've had a lot of ideas, not all of them created equal, as Ed can agree to. But as a board, I feel we have done a great job together as a team to move forward some really positive things for this town, and I thank you. It's an honor to serve with you. It's an honor to work with Guy and Debbie and all the supporting people. So it's hard to leave, but I'll be around the edges, checking in on you.
Good. Yeah, anything at your end?
No, just I've served on 3, or is it 4 boards with you over the years? A few, going all the way back to the Steve Farkas, Bug Shattuck days. We've been on a lot of boards together, and thank you. It's just always putting the town first. That's a rare thing.
Yeah. So a couple things, be quick about this, we got a lot more to work on. First of all, and foremost, is pleasure. Pleasure working with you. Maybe a better legislator. And I'm grateful for that. You widen my lens, I appreciate that. You tell me how to do the second mouse, which is not easy to do because it's like a Greek tragedy. Your strength becomes weakness when you're aggressive. But on the other hand, you're on speed dial, which I appreciate because I'm probably using that. The one thing I thought about this last election with all 4 board members was that the nice thing is that they're all decent people. And I can work with decent people. There's easy common ground with decent people. And I felt very confident going in, no matter how it turned out, that we would have a good board moving forward because we have the best interests of the town. And Brown, I've known you a long time, and I'm not just saying those words. I mean, we have a history. I mean, who else will go visit you in Alaska to lunch with you, right? We're up there. I mean, we actually sought you out. So anyways, having said that, these next 4 years are going to be very interesting, and I'm a firm believer that things happen for a reason. And the fact that we got you, and the fact that we've got this great board, that the planets are going to align. And the fact that I'm retired, I mean, now we're going to crank up the work drive. This is all going to be good, and it's all going to be good, and it's all going to be good work, just like we have in the past. These last 4 years, I think have been very good. One of the hardest things when you run for re-election, they say, what have you accomplished? And I don't really keep track. And I haven't accomplished anything. We've accomplished a lot. And I think as we continue to bring our town up to the 21st century, we have a lot of good people with good ideas, and a lot of them have a wide lens, and that's all good. So having said that, there are other things we talked about with shared services. That's come back. I'm going to use that as a segue that hopefully we'll wrap up the first shared services. That was 2 years ago with the LED lights. And they're going with other shared services now as far as using a planner locally, using Cortland as the backup for the 911, amongst other things. There's like 4 or 5 items there. It's not that they're being stretched at all, but to try to find shared services that helps everyone and what the impact is. I'm a team player, that's fine. But I think we're going to have some things on a docket this next year I think that the county can really sink their teeth into. There's a lot of good stuff that's bubbling below the surface. And at the right time, it'll come forward. And it'll be good for Lansing. One of our discussions with CJ was that I don't want to use the word disadvantage, but because of our lack of natural gas and everything, we qualify for certain things other people don't. And her marching orders are to widen that lens and to use every angle we can, every advantage we can to bring as much value to the citizens of Lansing as possible. And just when I think I've seen her limits, she opens up a whole new chapter. It's like, oh my God, what about this now? We have this joke, and I'll wrap this up real quick. We have this joke about the boa and the hippos, and how CJ is the boa, and you eat the hippo, and all of a sudden you're not doing anything. And the hippo is the project, this huge project, like Myers Park project, right? As you're calling me at the pharmacy saying, I don't believe this. I said, that's what should I do? I said, do what's necessary as long as we don't go to jail, okay? That is fine. And having said that, our comments are now that the hippos keep coming because all these wonderful projects keep coming forward. And this is our opportunity to really crank it to the next level. And like I said before, we'll be sharing that information. It's a little bit of a tease, Dan, I understand that. But there's some things that can't be mentioned entirely right now until there's things that are more solid. But a lot of stuff is going on, and the only reason we can even entertain certain things is because we have such a great group, and they're all solid. Every different department's rock solid. So having said that, I'm going to wish Debbie Munson good luck this next month or two. It's harvest time. You go to your office, you see that it's tax time, and the money's pouring in because we're only the one business, municipalities are only the one business where you get all your revenue at the same. You wish you could do this, right? All your revenue comes at the same time. You're done with it. So be it. On that note, like I said, it's been a good run. And like I said, I think these next 4 years are going to be also very good. We need to move into executive session. We have a variety of different things here. I don't know, normally we go into executive session and talk about one item. I got 3 to do. I know we want to talk about an employee. There's 2 different employees that we have to talk about. There's also land acquisition. So I'd like to move into executive session now. To do that, because we have multiple things, I don't know if the proper way is to go for one, come back out, go for another, come back out, or do we want to?
You can list all 3 and go into executive for all 3. I would like to invite Bronwyn to join us in executive session since she's going to have to deal with these in a few weeks.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm going to invite Dean also. So and then I said enough, I don't want to just keep talking. So I'd like to move to go into executive session.
So are you making the motion then?
I am actually.
I'll second it.
And it's for 2,
2 concerns about employees,
okay.
and 1 is about matters dealing with
Acquisition, sale, lease of real property?
Correct. Actually 2, and there's 2 and 2. I have
2 and
4
2,
things.
okay.
And I thought we'd get out early tonight.
Eat it and I'll cook it really fast.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay. Do you take a 5-minute break or not?
I think we need a 5-minute break.